Today, the Trump administration and 18 Republican-led states argued in front of the Supreme Court that Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, should be struck down in its entirety. This case comes as the pandemic continues to accelerate, and without any clear alternative for the people covered under that law, the millions of Americans who would lose their insurance if that law is overturned. This case is going to impact every single American in some way or another, and our Devin Dwyer has a closer look at the personal stakes for some of the families facing a lot of uncertainty right now.
For the third time in a decade, the Affordable Care Act is on the line at the Supreme Court.
It's done me a lot of good, and honestly, I wouldn't have known where to turn or where to sign up for insurance.
Veronica Valdez, a 38-year-old mother of 5, is watching the case closely. After losing her job and employer-based health insurance in the recession, she found a safety net in Obamacare.
That's the most important thing, is making sure we're all healthy. And you never know, having kids also, you can't take the risk of not having insurance.
Because she's unemployed, Valdez qualified for premium subsidies under the law, paying just $146 a month for coverage for her family. But now those subsidies, which help nearly 10 million Americans afford health care, could abruptly go away as President Trump and 18 Republican-led states asked the justices to invalidate the entire law.
Normally, the Supreme Court, when they rule something unconstitutional, it takes effect immediately. But it's really hard to find a precedent of a Supreme Court decision that would have such a sweeping effect on the country.
An estimated 21 million Americans would lose health insurance nationwide if the law is struck down, and protections for 54 million people with pre-existing conditions could also be eliminated.
It's sort of like a giant mouse, and it just goes up against my chest.
It's a scary prospect for Gene Faltis of New Hampshire, who says his medical chart reads like a horror story of conditions that an insurer could potentially deny.
Cancer, cardiac conditions, pulmonary dysfunction, diabetes, absolutely. I would have been excluded. There was no way prior to the ACA that I could have gotten, any sort of insurance if I was suddenly in the position of needing it through lack of employment.
President Trump and congressional Republicans have insisted there's no need to panic.
Will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care.
There's certainly multiple ways to protect people with pre-existing conditions. What you can't do is just kind of wave a magic wand and hope it happens.
So we're getting Andrew's day started here with his morning feed.
The uncertainty has Christine Callahan of Ohio deeply anxious. Her 13-year-old son, Andrew, who has an undiagnosed genetic condition, requires $7,000 a month in medical care.
On the healthcare insurance, we're a loss leader. But is it fair to say, we don't deserve it because we have a need?
Callahan worries ending Obamacare would mean a return to the time when insurance companies could cap payouts if you get sick.
I feel like we're going to come to a point, if we're back to those days, of what is the quality of this care that we can afford without spending everything we have. It's a balance of what do we do for our daughter as far as saving for college. I think it's that coming to the decision of our finances versus his care.
The personal stakes there. Devin Dwyer joining us live now in Washington. Devin, you and I are both on the phone for today's arguments. What's your big takeaway then?
Well, I don't know what you thought about it, Terry, but you can't always be certain from the orals how the justices are going to go, but it certainly appears like the Affordable Care Act will survive this challenge. For folks at home not following the case, this was about the individual mandate, that requirement that all Americans have insurance, even despite the fact that Congress eliminated the penalty a couple years ago. For more than 2 hours today, they wrangled over that, grappled with that change, debated whether or not it actually harms someone without a penalty, and if so, if it's unconstitutional. The justices also talk a lot about whether it could be severed from the law. Terry, we covered this during Amy Coney Barrett's hearings, whether or not the rest of the law could stand if, in fact, they struck down the mandate. Of course, President Trump and those Republican states say the whole thing needs to go, but it was striking today. Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, both seemed pretty unambiguous that individual mandate could be severed. The rest of the law could stand. In fact, Chief Justice John Roberts went so far as to say that while opponents opponents of Obamacare may have wanted the court to kill the law. He said, quote, "It's not our job." Pretty striking, Terry.
It was striking, and Kavanaugh as well, saying essentially this law is not like a Jenga puzzle. If you pull out the wrong piece, the whole thing comes down. They said, no, you can just take that piece out, the mandate, and the rest of it will stand. So when do we expect a ruling in this case? And one other justice up there, Justice Amy Coney Barrett. What do you think of her?
Yeah, this was the first time we heard from Amy Coney Barrett in a major case like this. Of course, she got so much attention back during her hearings for her views on the Affordable Care Act. She's been hostile to it. And today, there was no surprise there. I mean, Amy Coney Barrett was suggesting that Congress, they can't just leave this mandate in place. What the opponents are calling a naked command to all Americans, unconstitutional to have to buy something. So she was harshly critical. The justices will vote on the case later this week, Terry, in secret. Then, of course, they'll spend some time writing those opinions. We expect the decisions to come down sometime early next year, certainly by the end of June. But for all those families you saw in the piece, I think there's good reason for a sigh of relief. It does appear, at least at first glance here, that much of the law will stand. Terry?
Great reporting, Devin Dreyer, in the court and in the country. Thanks.
Thanks, Terry.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.